Let us begin. This is the final report on the subject designated as the Abbey of Safety. The following record constitutes a complete analysis of its systemic failure and, well, the logic of its necessary termination. All observations contained herein are my own. The diagnosis was, to be clear, unequivocal. A terminal sickness, rooted deep in polite lies and empty, repetitive rituals. The subject's condition had festered for so long, its very foundation was necrotic. So you see, my intervention wasn't an act of aggression. It was an act of clinical necessity. The subject had constructed for itself what I can only term a gilded cage, an architecture of pure stagnation. And the core transaction was simple, really. Its inhabitants, willingly, even eagerly, traded the chaotic fire of actual existence for the predictable, dim safety of just surviving. My arrival was noted, but I didn't enter as a guest to partake in their little rituals. Oh no, I came as the high judge of the void. My function was singular, to serve as the ultimate, unblinking mirror for their deep and incredibly prolonged self-deception. Now, to understand the intervention, you have to understand the intervener. I am the personification of the unfiltered id, the ultimate not-self that stands in direct opposition to their carefully constructed identities. My gaze, you could say it functions like philosophical acid. It just dissolves falsehoods. I am the emissary of the Thanatos drive. That is, the fundamental impulse that drives all living things toward the profound peace of a final inorganic state. I made them observe the sheer absurdity of their condition, their intricate lives, their egos, their precious selves. All of it was just static, a noisy little disturbance, an ontological error on the perfect eternal fabric of silence, an error that, of course, required correction. My instrument of judgment was then presented. It's not made of wood or of stone. It's a gavel forged from the cold, industrial weight of the truth itself. It is the physical manifestation of the logic I represent. And then the verdict was delivered. A single, decisive impact. This was the fire of dismantlement, a necessary force applied directly to the Abbey's foundation of lies, the moment of absolute, undeniable clarity. You see, the strike didn't merely crack stone. It shattered their collective illusion. It was a blight of revelation, forcing them to finally recognize that the sanctuary they cherished so much was constructed upon the very vacuum they were trying to escape. The chasm that opened in the floor wasn't just damage, it was a doorway. And through this schism, the uncanny, hidden nature of the Abbey was finally exposed for all its inhabitants to see. They peered into the abyss I'd opened, probably expecting to see a cellar, maybe some foundations. Instead, they saw the wasteland they'd fled from. They saw the searing silence, the mountain frost. The outside was already inside. It always had been. And there, at the bottom of the chasm, right in the Abbey's very heart, sat the true judge, the hourglass of eternal becoming. This vessel linked their internal rot directly to the external burden of repetition and choice. This revelation presented them with two paths, and only two. First, my path, the logic of zero, a systematic return to the inorganic, the profound peace of non-being, the final homecoming. The alternative? The logic of one, the total, agonizing ownership of the self, the chaotic fire of becoming. It was at this juncture that I made my formal offer. I presented the crimson gift. And it's not a punishment, but a mercy. The offer of absolute erasure. I act as a midwife, you could say, delivering the soul from the agonizing tension of being into the perfect, zero-tension state. So, the question was put to them, the witnesses of their own collapse. Would they choose the elegant peace of the abyss that I offered? Or would they cling to the agony of a life lived, as they say, warts and all? The verdict was unexpected. A variable I hadn't fully accounted for. The memory of a past defiance, the wanderer's choice. It just emerged from the chasm like a fire, an anomaly in the data. They rejected my gift. They embraced the logic of one. In a singular act of defiance, they chose to turn the hourglass themselves. They took total, unconditional ownership of their own flawed history, their original catastrophe. The very fire I used for dismantlement was repurposed, becoming a fire of self-creation. My analysis, my mockery of their struggle, it was silenced. They produced a yes to their own existence that was simply louder than my silence. It created a truth that, by its very nature, I could not negate: the sovereign triumph of a life that chooses to be. And with that choice, the architecture of stagnation became completely obsolete. The Abbey served no purpose. It just crumbled, its dust mingling with the desert it had spent its entire existence trying to forget and deny. The case is closed. The final principle demonstrated by this societal collapse and subsequent transformation has been logged. It appears my logic, while perfect, is not the only truth. Because what is one to make of a system where nothing truly dies so long as one chooses to grow?